Good to have you. In Sub-Saharan Africa, many are now talking of a technology hub taking off in Lagos. An emerging technology ecosystem incubated more than 50 startups in the last few years. Now, it's sprouting as the government finds ways to incentivize innovation in a nation struggling to diversify its economy from dependence on oil. And with us to discuss technology and innovation in the studio is Olaniyi Yusuf, Managing Director Verraki and former Managing Director of Accenture in Nigeria. It's good to have you with us, and good morning.
Thank you, Niyi. Good morning.
All right. When we talk about innovation with technology, what really do we mean? I would like you to break it down, into a simpler for the viewers.
All right, thanks. So the way I see innovation in technology is really around new ways of doing things that adds value to someone, right? So it's not about invention. Invention is when you create something new that doesn't exist. But really innovation is around how do you use technology to do what you used to do in a better way, in a cheaper way, in a faster way. And so to give some examples, talk about mobility. So in the past, if I need to go, it was raining today in Lagos, if I need to go to the mainland, I'll call someone, okay, tell me, is there traffic? But today, you can go on your Google map, and it shows you if there's traffic, it shows you the fastest route to go. So that's technology in terms of journey management. How do I go? Or if I want to flag a taxi, so in the past, I would need to go out, stay in the rain, flag a taxi, blah, blah, blah. Or in some places, you make a phone call. But today, you do an app, right? And with the app, you see taxis available, you see there's price transparency, and you go on to it. So take banking. Banking used to be in the banking hall in the 70s. Yeah. It's around teller numbers and co. And then from banking halls, you move to ATMs. From ATMs now, you move into mobile banking. Even from mobile banking, you moved into USSD banking. And so banking today is 24/7, anywhere, anytime, from any device, right? Take in the medical field, health. So in Uganda, there is a company called Zipline that delivers blood using drones. In Nigeria, we use drones for entertainment, to take pictures. And so really, it's around how do we use technology to do better, faster, cheaper, the things we used to do before. And that, for me, is what you call innovation.
Indeed, and making life easier, as it were.
Absolutely.
Very good. Now, are we indeed seeing a technology hub in Nigeria emerging, or is this wishful thinking for now?
I think, so the right word is emerging. We are seeing green sprouts, and we're seeing good promises, right? So if you take the Yaba area, or the Yaba district, well over 60 companies formed or startup ventures in Yaba. Last year, Nigeria recorded about $178 million worth of investments into startups.
All right.
So we're talking 64 billion naira going to like about 148 startups, albeit more than 97% of that fund came from outside the country, and less than 3% came from the country. But so if you measure it based on number of startups, based on the capital going to those entities, even based on the number of employees, then I think we are at the beginning of something, something promising.
So to a large extent, the industry is still at its infancy, but growing.
Yeah, it is. Right. It is at its nascent stage.
Okay. I remember not too long ago, I think Microsoft invested like $100 million in Nigeria and also in East Africa. So I think we're getting to a good level there. Now, what is unique about successful innovations in Nigeria, and why are they successful? And can you give us examples as well?
So innovations that are successful, I think, are innovations that meet needs, not just wants.
Okay.
So they're solving a major problem. And I think for those innovators, they typically start with why. Why am I doing this? What problem do I really want to solve? And so to give an example, InterSwitch. So in the early 2000s, while at Accenture, we worked with InterSwitch to create InterSwitch working with Telnet and the banks. Okay. And what problems were we trying to solve? Connectivity. Connecting the banks together, allowing for online switching of transactions. Because back then, we only had two banks who had ATMs, First Bank and Societe Generale Bank. Yeah. between the two, they had less than 20 ATMs, and the ATMs were offline. So fast track, today, you have more than 20,000 ATMs in the country that are all connected. So that, for me, it's a good example, solving and providing the ability to switch transactions online across various channels. So talk about Remitter. Remitter has been solving the problems of how do I pay and make transfers across my accounts in different banks.
Okay.
That problem has been solved by Remitter. If you go into payments, and interestingly, most of these examples are fintech-based examples, because I think fintech started the journey well ahead of other sectors. So companies like Flutterwave, like Paystack, that have been very successful, have addressed the issue of how could SMEs, small companies, be able to accept payments online. And so if you then use an API from a Flutterwave or a Paystack, we just click and drop, the SME is able to accept various payments, cards, USSD, in a secured manner online. And so from my point of view, those that are successful are those that are solving real problems that affect you and I.
Indeed, real time. Very good. Now, what factors are driving innovation in Nigeria, you think?
I think there are a number of reasons why we've seen innovation bloom in Nigeria. I think one is, every problem, it's an opportunity. Yeah. So we take a startup like FarmCrowdy.
All right.
FarmCrowdy tries to solve the issue of how do we provide funds to farmers? Okay. And how do executives like you and I in the urban area who have an interest in farming but just can't farm, are they able to invest in farming? Right. So matching those who want to invest with those who need the capital, that's what FarmCrowdy has done. And so those are the factors driving it, I think, is really around the advent of technology. Okay. Because now technology is more pervasive, especially mobile technology in a country where you have over 150 million phone subscribers. So that has helped, because now every phone is much more powerful than the computer that I used when I was in school in
you can say that again.
Absolutely. So now you have that mobile computing power that's pervasive. And then the second is the demographic shift. We now have a set of youth who are quite aggressive in terms of their entrepreneurship and what they would like to do, right? I think the third, I would say, is the linkage with the diaspora. Okay. Quite a number of Nigerians who have schooled offshore or who lived offshore have now returned back home. And they've come back with the knowledge, the insight, the experience that they've gained offshore. They've seen what is good. And so they're here, they're not settling for less. And they also then have linkages with investors offshore. And so that has brought about that transfer. Then there's capital looking for great ideas and looking for good returns. Okay. And Africa is the last frontier. Indeed. So we're having those capital coming into Nigeria. So I think a number of these factors have driven innovation.
Very good. Now, how did countries like China and South Korea become leaders in innovation and a number of patents?
Interesting. So, I mean, historically, US and European economies used to lead in terms of patents and R&D. But, I mean, 2011, China became the highest filing nation in terms of people filing for patents. Yeah. And, I mean, in 2017, out of the 3 million plus patents that were filed, 40% were filed in China, that is which is significant. Yeah. So how has this come about? I think one is deliberate effort by the government in terms of supporting R&D, research and development, providing grants to drive R&D. So if you take a country like South Korea in 2016 or thereabout spent about 4.3% of its GDP on R&D. US spent 2.5%. Israel spent like 4.1%, so Israel was the second. Japan, 3.9% was the third. And so the more country spends on R&D, of course, the output of that is innovation, is patent granting.
All right.
Then in some other markets, in South Korea, that government has invested a lot in setting up research park.
Okay.
So there's what you call the PTV, the Pankyo Techno Valley in South Korea, which is your equivalent of Silicon Valley.
All right.
66 hectares worth of land. And the South Korean government has spent over $100 million providing infrastructure that makes the place worth living. And so today you have 8 out of the 10 biggest corporations in South Korea with offices in that valley. You have over 103,000 technology companies in that area. And so when you then cohabit together, when you have a convenient environment, you're able to do research which leads to patent.
All right.
And lastly is around the ease of doing business.
Okay.
Just make it easy for those companies to thrive in those areas.
Very good, Niyi. But I would like you to hold your thoughts on those issues because we're going to come back to it. We'll be right back after this break.
Sure.
It's good to have you back on a Global Business Report, and we're still talking about technology innovation in Nigeria, and I've still got with me Olaniyi Yusuf. And earlier, before we left, we were talking about all the gambit related to technological innovation. Now, what are the barriers to innovation in Nigeria, you think?
Right. So the barriers to innovation, I think for me the first really is around having we don't have a structured process that supports innovation.
Okay. When you mean structured, is it from a government perspective or?
Government, private sector.
Sectors as well.
Innovation is a deliberate process, not something that happens by chance. And unfortunately, most companies, most government enterprises don't dedicate enough time, enough resources to support innovation. You know, we're in this move mode. The second thing is the short-term orientation. You know, we want result like yesterday. Innovation takes a while, which comes to the third point. There's a fear of failure, right? Which basically stops people from moving forward, from trying anything. And hardly will you succeed at the first, second, or third attempt. You just need to keep at it before you succeed. And so all of that has then led to the non-provision of resources, whether it's time, money, or people. The other bit is technology innovation will be driven by technologies. So we need to invest in STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And when you have those STEM graduates, then you can begin to lay the foundation for innovation. So we're not doing enough. I mean, if you take a country like South Korea, kids learn programming, software programming in kindergarten.
Wow.
Right. For us, kindergarten, we are still learning A for apple, B for ball. And so if you then start from kindergarten, you can imagine that these kids before the age of 18, they're basically doing...
starting them young.
Absolutely. So we need to invest in STEM education. We need to provide the resources, and then government should provide access to markets. So I'm not asking for subsidy, but access to market. And if you do all of those things, then you would remove some of the barriers to innovation.
And still in relation to that, how can government help foster innovation? What more can be done?
All right, so a number of things. The first is ease of doing business. Right. And so to give you an example, so I mean, we just launched Verraki Partners in April, so it's a new company. Okay. And then when in trying to register with a number of clients, they're asking you for 3 years audited report. For a new entity. So part of the ease of doing business is understanding that there are established corporations and there are startups. Okay. And for startups, we need to have different criteria for assessment, right? The second will be access to market, which for me, it's more interesting than providing subsidies. Okay. So there's an executive order, I think EO 5 or 6, that speaks to buying national. All right. But beyond buying national, supposing you have another that speaks to buying SMEs, right? So if you take, in South Africa, 16% of all federal procurement goes to SMEs. Okay. In US, 22.5% 0.5% of all federal procurement go to SMEs via the Small Business Administration.
So there's a deliberate policy towards that.
Absolutely. Deliberate policy to support SME. So in Nigeria, we claim that SMEs employ like 37 million persons. So if you then have that deliberate policy that says, okay, 20% or 15% of our procurement will go to SMEs. If each SME recruits one person, that's 37 million new employment. So access to market will be one way that the government can assist, ease of doing business. Third will be around talent development, especially from a STEM point of view, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Developing students or graduates who have deep roots in those areas. And fourth will be IP protection. So, I mean, what has happened in the entertainment industry where people steal your intellectual work and you don't get any benefit? We need to find ways to protect the output of research work. And lastly, really for me, will be around how do you then assist to commercialize the output of the innovators. So a linkage between the research guys, the technology guys, and the IP grants institutions, and then the market to ensure that there is a way to easily commercialize. So if you take South Korea, for instance, they have global giants, or even China. You know, your global corporates like Huawei, like Hyundai, like Samsung. These are companies in several countries of the world.
Indeed.
And they support research. They give grants to institutions, to universities who do research. And the output of this research, they're able to easily commercialize them in the products that they launch on a yearly basis. So whether it's in fintech, in mobile, in cloud, we all see their products. So again, it's how do we have to commercialize and increase the linkage between industry, commerce, and the innovators and our research institutions. And I think government has a role to play in midwifing that linkage.
So there has to be a synergy between the government and all the stakeholders you just mentioned. All right, on that note, Olaniyi Yusuf, Managing Director, Verraki, and former Managing Director of Accenture in Nigeria, I'd like to thank you for the enlightenment on those tech innovation topics. Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
All right.